Hello again. So a while back, I did a video on time travel and the rules of time travel as I see them. So today I want to look at what it would take to actually change history through time travel. Now, my basic rules. I had two basic rules. There's a third one that has come up. So first of all, you can do nothing that will prevent you from traveling in time. And this includes removing your reason for traveling in time. So the whole causality thing. If I kill Hitler, then Hitler never makes the history points or the history books, and so I now have no reason to go back and kill Hitler. Um, I can't accidentally kill myself or do anything that would kill me. Can't do anything that will prevent me from creating my time machine. The second one I had was you cannot create independent loops. So I can't become my own ancestor. I can't give myself time travel technology. Everyone says, oh, I would just do that first thing. Well, you can't because you're creating an independent loop, and that can't be done. Now, the third one that someone came up with was the idea the same matter cannot come into contact with each other. So I can't go back in time and shake my hand. Um, I don't see why. However, I would add if you are traveling in time, you are essentially creating mass. I go back in time and now got 80 kilograms that weren't in the past to now exist in the past, and you're not supposed to be allowed to do that. My solution to this would my time machine would have to somehow pick an equal mass and bring it to the present if I go in the past. Actually, same would happen if I traveled to the future. But so there's my solution to that one. Is I am replacing something in the past basically if I travel in time. So it could just be 80 kilograms of water from the ocean just pop back. Now that said, anything I do to change my mass in the past, so I go and I have a meal and then I try to come back, I have to make sure that, again, matter gets transferred back in the same amount. So anything I do, like I said, I gain or lose weight while I'm in the past. When I return home, I've got to make sure that that is also made up for. So, changing time. How would we actually change time or history? So, first thing, you cannot do it on purpose. So, it would have to be something done accidentally or incidentally, we should say. So, the scenario I came up with is I've got tickets to some major event, Super Bowl, let's say. However, the only time I can get computer time to, double check my time travel figures is during the Super Bowl. Because, it's going to take a supercomputer to do this sort of thing. So I've scheduled time during the Super Bowl, but I've got tickets to go to the Super Bowl. What do I do? Well, to begin with, Super Bowl is never held locally. So why don't I just stay here, do my calculations. Now that I have a working time machine, go back to the Super Bowl and watch it. So I am not purposely changing time. I'm not going to meet myself back there. I'm probably not going to meet anyone I know, although, odds are there's probably at least one person locally who got Super Bowl tickets and went. But odds of my knowing that person are a long shot. So there we go. I'm actually changing history by going there, but not intentionally doing it. So what do I mean I'm changing history? All I'm doing is, and we're going to say in advance, I'm not going to watch the game. I'm not going to listen to the game. I am not going to go back and place any bets. I am doing everything in my power to not change history. I just want to go and watch the game live. So, but I'm still changing history. See, first time I didn't do this, there was an empty chair in the stadium, right? I had the ticket for it. I didn't give the ticket to anyone else. So there's an empty seat. Either somebody placed their coat on it, or somebody from another seat said, hey, there's a better seat. I'm going to go down there and sit. Somebody, put their cooler full of beer on it. Something happened. The seat was taken up somehow. No, it didn't stay empty the entire Super Bowl. Let's be realistic about this. So when I go back in time and now I'm sitting in the seat, that affects something. Who knows? Maybe a fight didn't break out the first time because someone had more elbow room. And when I go and I'm sitting in the seat, now someone has less elbow room, a fight breaks out. My mere presence is somehow changing history. It might be a very minor thing, and something that just resolves itself later. And so maybe it is possible to do that. So that brings up other questions like how does the universe prevent a paradox? So I go back in time. I'm going to go to the Super Bowl. As long as I've got my Super Bowl ticket, I got hotel tickets. I've got other things going on. So because I was planning on going to the Super Bowl, so I got all this other stuff. Not hotel tickets, but reservations. So I'm taking up more space if I stay there longer than the game. Because I've already paid, already put a deposit down at least. Going to my hotel, I am catching a taxi. Because I don't live there. So somebody else is not getting the taxi that they would have gotten if I had not gone through there. So that, again, potentially changing history. Now this person misses their appointment or whatever. It affects their life. Again, the universe might be able to correct for this on its own, but it's also creating a situation which may or may not affect me in the future somehow. The more people whose lives are affected, the more likely it is to come back to me. So again, will the universe just prevent me from doing this because it would create a paradox? So, to try to hail a taxi and my voice just gets stuck in my throat and someone else gets the taxi first. Or would it just say, nope, you're going to catch a taxi and it's going to, tear apart the universe? So looking at this now, I'm thinking, how can you change history by accident? And yes, you can do little minor changes like this, possibly. And the universe will hopefully self-correct itself. So how likely are we to come to a event where the universe couldn't self-correct it? To where, even though I'm not doing it on purpose, I am doing something which will eventually get back to me. And therefore affect my traveling in time. So, my new rules here on changing time by accident. The farther back you go, the more likely you are to create a paradox of some sort. Just because there are more events that can happen. I go back 5 minutes, I eat something that someone else would have eaten, but they get something else, and it can self-correct. I go back 1,000 years and I eat something, and now someone doesn't plant the seed that they would have had if they'd eaten that apple or whatever, and now a whole tree doesn't grow, and other people don't benefit from that tree. I mean, it sounds a little weird, but it is something to consider. The farther back I go, like I said, any e- event I do, not event, action I take, that's what I want. Any action I take the further back has more consequences to it, basically. Just because it's affecting someone, and then they affect someone else, and they affect someone else. And it can, get back to me, more likely to get back to me. Go back a year, my actions have maybe 100 results when it comes back to me. Go back 5 years, and my action has branched off into maybe 1,000 results. So I am more likely to affect myself the farther back I go. Further away I go, distance. So if I go back to yesterday, my backyard, then yesterday I will look out my window and see someone in my backyard. And that's going to affect me in some ways, thinking, who's this guy and why is he dressed like me? Whereas if I go back to yesterday, somewhere in Indochina, I'm less likely to affect myself. So the farther away I go distance, the less likely I am to affect myself. The farther away I go in time, the more likely I am to affect myself. Makes sense. Doesn't mean this won't get back to me at some point, but it's less likely to. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, just got to thinking, if I could change time by accident, how would that work? And I think it would be possible as a time traveler to do that, but to accidentally change time and not have it get back to you, not have it create a paradox. Yes, it would recreate history to some extent and affect other people's lives, but as long as those effects didn't get back to the person doing it, causing the change, then it's not really creating a paradox from their point of view. This is like the whole relativity thing, and twin paradox. From one person's point of view, time is moving at a different rate. From one person's point of view, there is a paradox because they went back in time. From another person's point of view, no, history hasn't changed at all. So I think the time traveler, as long as history doesn't change from their point of view, i.e., something minor enough that they don't care about and it doesn't affect them, it could possibly be done. Now, again, the only way to prove this would be to try to purposely change history, which you cannot do. So we couldn't prove it, but we could potentially do it. And that is it, so far as I can think of. Have a nice day.